Alrighty, everybody, so we have our tried and true isekai of the season. I swear every season has bare minimum at least one pretty solid isekai, and that's the case here. So with that said, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to one of our weekly anime discussion videos. Today we're going to be talking all about the world's finest assassinate... This title is long. The world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world as an aristocrat. Episode 1, Quantum of Trust, which, by the way, very cool James Bond reference. But before we get to the video proper, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, let all of AniTube know that you're here, and without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about this week's episode, shall we? And yes, we do in fact begin with a James Bond reference in the title, Quantum of Trust, more like Quantum of Solace. I do have to believe that that was definitely a nod. Going into this episode, though, with just that, just the title and the episode title, like title of the show and episode, title of the episode, I only really had one thought in my mind, and that is that title is kind of funny. I swear, light novel titles, man, they get longer and longer every time. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the next one is, I was reincarnated as this guy, and this guy does this thing, and I'm going to do this thing to save this person, the show. It is getting a little ridiculous. But it was also the fact that it had the Quantum of Trust, right? I was like, Quantum of Solace, that's a cool little nod. So I knew at the very least that there was some level of cool factor here, because James Bond, pretty freaking cool. And also the fact that it comes from Studio Silverlink, which is basically the Isekai factory, as far as I'm concerned. It's them and White Fox. So I was like, okay, like, Silverlink is pretty much, I think, considered, like, the Isekai factory, right? Like, they usually crank out bare minimum one Isekai per season, or per year, I believe. When I think of Isekai, I usually am thinking of a Silverlink show. Even if it's not exactly an Isekai, it's always, like, Isekai or Isekai-ish type things. Like, just the general vibe of Isekai is usually where we get Silverlink shows. And so that definitely sort of made me go like, okay, it's in good hands, right? Like no matter what, this show will be in good hands, because most of the Silverlink shows I enjoy. They're not always like my favorite things, but I usually have a good time with them. I mean, they made friggin' Bofuri, for crying out loud, and I love Bofuri, right? So it's like, okay, so I can at least trust them to be good. It's going to be a good show. I will say, though, I am slowly but surely getting a little bit burnt out on a lot of the new isekai coming out. It's not that they're bad, it's just that I feel as though my patience is wearing more and more thin for a lot of the newer crop of isekai shows, right? I'd rather just enjoy the current stuff that we have, like ReZero and Konosuba and stuff like that. I don't really feel like I want to be constantly getting new isekai every single season and not even being super certain if we're gonna get a season 2 from those shows, because they're constantly cranking out new ones. And it's like, I don't know if I necessarily even want this, right? But on top of that, the big thing that made me very unsure of what to expect, right, wasn't just the fact that it's a new isekai, wasn't just the fact that the title is kind of funny. It's the fact that the author, Ruri Tsukio, is the same author that makes me really uncomfortable with their other work, Redo of Healer. Yikes. That made me wildly uncomfortable, because I saw people be like, you really gonna cover this? And I was like, yeah, why? They're like, it's from the same person who made Redo of Healer. And I was like, oh. Yikes. That show is... Look, I'm not gonna lie to you, if you tell me that you unironically enjoy Redo of Healer, I don't really want to talk to you. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, that show made me wildly uncomfortable. Like, I was like, what is even the hell? Like, no thank you. I don't want to go anywhere near that show. And I don't really want, I didn't really want anything to do with the creator. I didn't want to check out any of their other works. I was good, right? Like, I was like, nope, that shit was hella creepy and uncomfortable to the extreme. I don't want to screw around with anything made by them, so I was very much like, I will check out this first episode because the setup seemed cool. I will give it at least an attempt, and if it's bad, then I will never go near anything this person does again. But to my pleasant surprise, this show is kind of dope. It's legitimately kind of dope, and I wasn't anticipating that at all. So I don't know what the hell was up with Redo of Healer, because this does not feel like Redo, right? Like, this does not feel like Redo of Healer. This feels like a totally different thing. I don't know what was going on in Tsukio's mind when writing Redo of Healer. I certainly hope they're okay. Because, like, this feels like a completely different series. Like, it doesn't even feel like it's written by the same person. It's kind of crazy. And that pretty much immediately starts, right? Like, right from the cold open, it just separates itself from Redo of Healer in a really good way. It doesn't feel like the same thing, right? I will say that we do start with, like, a human trafficking ring. Yikes. Right? So it's like, oh, I didn't want that. Not quite. I was like, oh, no, right? Because, like, I saw that, and I had the whole Redo of Healer thing in the back of my mind, so I was like, oh god, where are we going with this? And thankfully, nowhere bad, right? Like, it's, like, you think it's gonna go there, but then, because you have, like, this maid character being like, I can't do your makeup if you keep crying, and she's like, please just make me ugly, right? Like, because it's them, like, not wanting to be sold off, and it's very uncomfortable, right? Because it's these girls who have been kidnapped, right, by this, I believe, I can't remember what the countess's name is, but it's this Madam something or other, right? And it's, like, essentially this high-ranking noble disguises her minions, essentially, as bandits who ransack these different villages and then take the prettiest girls and then sell them off to these other aristocrats, right? Like, and these other nobles, and it's very gross, right? Like, I was like, ooh, right? Like, just very, very gross. But the setup is to make you dislike these people, obviously, right? Like, you're not supposed to be like, oh, this is intriguing. It's supposed to be like, ew, no, stop it, right? And that's when the top girl goes out, and she basically pulls a Zatanna, because the way the magic seems to work in this world is much like Zatanna. You just say the thing you want to do backwards, right? And that's how the magic works. So she essentially says, like, what is it? Generate or create metal, right? She says create metal backwards, and she creates a rifle, right? And then just starts saying fire backwards, and it starts launching bullets into these aristocrats. And then all of a sudden, the maid who was helping earlier is also a badass. There is, like, unnecessary fan service where she's just like, well, like, now I don't have any qualms about killing you, and she, like, goes to, like, reach for something underneath her dress, but in order to do it, the dress goes completely all the way up, and it's like, alright. Like, that's a little unnecessary, but, like, we enjoy some fan service around these parts, so I was like, sure, whatever. As long as the character is in charge of, like, their fan serviciness, right, which the maid does seem to be, I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's fine, right? So I was sort of like, alright, like, I guess we're doing this. So I was like, alright, bet. So, like, the maid basically is a badass, and we get to see her being a badass, and she knows she's attractive as well, so she gets to have the fan servicey moment, and doesn't feel grotesque, right? Doesn't feel like Redo of Healer. So basically, yeah, the maid and the top girl turn out to be absolute badasses, and they start taking down everybody, and you're like, oh shit, that was genuinely refreshing, getting to see women take charge and be a badass. Unlike Redo of Healer, right? Like, at least from the episodes that I saw. So I was like, oh cool, like, you actually get to see these women take charge of the situation where they were made to be victims, and now they actually turn out to be kind of awesome, right? And on top of that, you see these snipers waiting in the distance. Some other girl and our MC. And the MC is basically sitting there. He's like this cool looking dude. He's got white hair, and he's just sort of like observing the situation, and he's got the ringleader in his sights, right? And he's listing off the reasons why what she's done is horrible, right? And then he goes like, in order, like, by the name of whatever, and in law, like, following the laws of this, she is to be assassinated. Boom, right? Like, and just shoots, and, like, we don't necessarily see her get taken out, but we see like the bullet go towards her, and then we see the impact of someone else. So that's where we cut to the spy thriller part of the episode. But before I start talking about the spy thriller stuff, I gotta say, the cold open had me very intrigued for how the magic works, how this team is assembled. Like, I think a cold open is always a good way to start, because you get to see, like, what the team looks like, right, and how they operate, and how they will eventually be when they actually get to work all as a team. Like the little jump forward, I think, is always a good idea. So I like that, and then we jump back, right? We jump into this sort of spy thriller. And we meet our MC when he was still in our world, and he's an older dude, and he is cold as ice. This man is, like, brutal. We find out that this dude has basically been born and bred in this organization, right? And I'm like, this is kind of sick. Right? Like, I was watching it going, like, this is kind of sick. This is kind of a cool setup. So this man was basically born and bred by this organization to be an assassin, and he takes pride in that. He is happy to be a tool for the organization because he feels as though he owes them, right? Like he was born into the organization and raised by them to be the perfect killing machine, right? And he's cold as ice. He does not give a damn when the partner his rookie partner points out, like, the whole mafia is there. We could very easily take them out. And he's like, we are not champions of justice. We are tools, right? We are sent to do a job. We do the job. We get out, right? Like, that is what we do. We are not heroes, right? Like, we have a job to do. We go in, we do the job, we leave. That's what we do. We are assassins, right? And I like that. I like that he points out, like, we are not some big heroes. Like, we're not here to save the day. We work for an organization and we follow their rules. That is who we are. That is what we do, right? And it's like, dang, that is cold, right? Because, like, he points out that, like, there could be undercover members of the organization in there. So killing them all would mean that we'd be killing some of our own. It could be that maybe the organization wants us to kill just those people so that they can then replace the leaders with someone of their choosing, right? Like, there's reasons why you would want to not kill all the mafia members, even though, you know, the mafia is not exactly good, right? So you definitely, like, like, I can see why the MC would want to follow the rules of his organization. However, of course, the organization is about to screw him. But I like that he basically says, like, I'm going to retire after this. Like, this is the last mission. I'm going to retire after this. I'm going to Japan, right? She's like, oh, like, what to do what? And he's like, I'm going to be training assassins out there. And she's like, ninjas? And I was like, that's kind of sick. I would have loved to have seen that, actually. But the partner also is sort of a linchpin in this spy thriller because she is very much a rookie, right? Like, she says, like, I was also trained by the organization. How dare you, right? And he goes, like, okay. And he just takes out a gun and points it at her. And he goes, what is this? And she's like, huh? And he's like, I asked you a question. What is this? And it's her gun. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. What in the high hell? Like, what's going on here? And so he, at some point, grabbed her gun, right? And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, did you really trust me? I lied about going to Japan and all that. I lied about being, like, training people. Like, I actually just needed you for this mission, and I was gonna dispose of you after we got away, but you're being too much of a nuisance. I'm just gonna kill you now. And she's like, huh? And he's like, I lied. Don't trust people, right? And he's like, and then he just lays down. He's like, go to sleep. And she's like, how do you know I'm not gonna shoot you? And he just drops bullets from the gun in front of her to be like, you're not gonna kill me, right? And she's like, what? How? When did you? He's like, go to sleep. So I like that he's this, like, ultra badass, but unfortunately it doesn't stay, right? Like, he definitely, I'm surprised he didn't see this coming, because I did, but it's like, the organization is obviously going to kill him, right? Like, it's why there was that drone waiting for them, right? Because they wanted them to get caught. They wanted them to, like, you know, get caught and then killed, right? And then when they get on the plane to go to Japan, the plane starts to get some turbulence, or at least what you think is turbulence, only to find out that it's being hijacked. Right? And so the flight attendant tries to stop him from getting to the cockpit, but obviously he knocks her the hell out and gets into the cockpit. And it's a bummer because, like, even the rookie is just like, oh my god, like, they sent me to throw you off, right? And he realizes that too, that it's like, they sent you to throw me off my game, so I'd focused on getting you and me out of here, and that I wouldn't really think about the fact that if we get on this plane, we're sitting ducks. So he tries to get into the cockpit to try to fly them away, but then he sees, like, a fighter jet, and he's like, oh my god, you know, I knew one day, after all the lives I've taken, that one day someone will come to take mine. I just didn't expect such a glorious coffin. And it's like, holy shit. And so while he does try to save the plane, and I don't think he's necessarily, again, he's not a good person, so I don't think he's necessarily trying to save the plane in order to save, like, all the people on the plane, including the rookie. Like, no, he was mainly focused on just not dying, right? But so the plane, not only does he get taken out, but so does the partner and the plane, which is crazy, right? I was like, oh my god. So, like, he does his best, but obviously it doesn't quite work out, and everybody dies, right? Rocks fall, everyone dies. And this is where we get the actual plot of the show, where we get this frustrated assassin betrayed by his organization, and we see him sort of sinking into the abyss, right? Sinking into the afterlife, like being prepared to be sort of reincarnated, right? Or not so much reincarnated, but reborn into his own world, but like with new memories, right? Like he was prepared to sink away and into this new life and just disappear, right? His present self ready to die. But he is saved at the very last second, chosen by a very quirky goddess. I'm not gonna lie, when the goddess spoke, I'm like, ooh, she's gonna annoy me. Or, like, she does the like, wow, ooh, right? It's like, okay, stop, right? Like, just the things she's doing, I'm like, stop it. But he's given a choice, right? Essentially, you can be reincarnated into your own world, where you will have, your memory will be erased, and you will be a whole new person, right? So essentially, the man he is now will be completely gone, and a new person will walk away in his place. So it's essentially dying, right? Or the other option is that he can be reincarnated into this world of sorcery and swords, like swords and sorcery, right? And he will be sent there with a mission by the goddess. And that mission is to kill the hero. That's kind of crazy. Because I'm so used in isekai, I'm so used to the idea that when they get reincarnated, they are the hero and they're sent to kill the demon lord, which is what I assumed was going to happen, right? They're sent to kill the bad guy, right? They're the heroes. This time, no. Our hero, like our protagonist, is the bad guy, right? Like he's going to assassinate the hero. But for all we know, the hero could be a scumbag in this world, right? Like, so maybe the hero's like a bad person. Like maybe the goddess tried to send a hero to do heroic deeds, but instead he ended up being a bad guy. I'm not actually sure where we're going. I just know that the setup really, really intrigued me. I was genuinely so shocked. I thought that this setup was super cool. Like, everything about this premiere, I was like, this is so much better than I thought it was gonna be. I was so impressed. I was like, this is, like, legit super cool. I love the MC. I want to see more from him. I like this sort of grizzled, like, assassin who's gonna be reborn into this world, and he's gonna be, like, this ultra badass. Like, that kind of thing makes me very happy. I think the MC is super sick. And I do want to see more from him. I love that the women actually get to be badasses, right? Like, the rookie partner, not so much, but the other girls that he teams up with in the future, right? Like who we see like in the cold open. I like that they get to be badasses. Again, like given that it's Ruri Tsukio, who I'm still very wary of. I'm still going to be very cautious going through the rest of the show because again, Redo of Healer is super uncomfortable. I think it's like really honestly kind of reprehensible. Like I think it's irredeemable, right? It's just a terrible series, and it shouldn't even really exist, right? So I'm like, I don't like that series. I don't want anything to do with that series. So I was again very hesitant, and I walked away so impressed. And if it stays in its own lane and doesn't go anywhere near the Redo of Healer type shenanigans that Tsukio has written in the past, then I will be a very happy camper, and I will very much enjoy this show. And I would hope that you guys also enjoy this show and that you enjoyed this video, because it's over now. Cut to the outro. And that's going to do it for today's video, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and set notifications to all. Let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, as always, I have to give a big thank you to my wonderful masters who help support this endeavor. And of course, I want to give a special thank you to the Masters of Masters who help support us just that little bit more. And I have to give a big thank you to Izevi, Asaki VT, Elizabeth Just Elizabeth, JCran23, Jeremy P, Matt87 Eagle, Shadow Creative, Shiorans, Stephen G, Stevie W, Trapmaster, and Tristan G. Thank you all so much for being so freaking wonderful. I appreciate it. And if you want to hear your name shouted out at the end of these videos, or you want to see your name scrolling past the screen, go ahead and check out the link in the description to our Patreon page, or you can hit that join button right beside the sub button. And that also gets you a badge next to your name as well in the comments if you want people to know how cool you are. But yeah, I'd sincerely appreciate it. It is a great way to help this channel and keep videos coming out. I really appreciate it, everyone. And that is it for me. So you guys take care of yourselves, and of course, do clean your room. It's filthy.